Greetings, kindred. I hope you're all doing well under these very intense energies. And yeah, I mean, this has been building up now for like a week or so. And of course, we're still, going through the solar eclipses energies as well. So, the actual eclipse itself takes place or will reach its peak actually around an hour before the full moon reaches its peak. So I think in the UTC time zone, the eclipse actually begins at 1:32 on the 16th of May. So it's 1:32 in the UTC time zone. But if you go to timeanddate.com, you can actually get the time of the eclipse. And of course, you can see a map as well of where the eclipse takes place. Now, as far as I'm aware, the eclipse takes place in Antarctica, America, Europe, and West and Southeast Africa. But it's mostly kind of like up the Atlantic, coming from the Antarctic through the south of Africa and America up through the Atlantic. But yeah, I do recommend, if you really want to learn more about the eclipse, to go to timeanddate.com. So the lunar eclipse will take place an hour before the full moon reaches its peak, as I said, and the full moon will actually reach its peak at 5:14 in the GMT time zone, at 00:14 just after midnight in the EDT time zone, and at 14:14 in the AEDT time zone. So the 16th is the day, which is tomorrow actually. I think it's the 15th today, I'm not sure, I've just been so busy. So yeah, let's look at the chart room. So as you can see, there's this really strong T-square. Now this T-square with the nodes and Saturn, like I said before, it's been going on, it's been ongoing for a while, but this is really heavy, especially since it's like the lunar eclipse and the full moon is involved in this T-square with the nodes and Saturn, conjunct the goddess Vesta. So, wow, the lunar eclipses are all about the unconscious mind, so we're going deep down into the darkness, into the womb. Now, that energy for some, for those that are not really in their spiritual strength or have that inner faith or, in their self-power, this can be a very, very depressing time, or a very, very kind of like restricting time, especially emotionally. It's just like we just cannot get it together. Our activities, our mentality, emotionally, we're out of balance. And I mean, even for spiritual, creative people, we're going to be feeling this too. We're going to feel out of balance, out of sync. There's this loss of mojo, of inspiration. Saturn conjunct Vesta was in a water sign. I would say it was a dampening of our passion. But in an earth sign, I would say, we're feeling a little bit smothered at the moment, especially going down into the underworld, we can tend to feel a little bit claustrophobic. So I would say watch out for, heart palpitations. This does create a lot of nervous energy, what I'm seeing here. So definitely breathing techniques, positive daily affirmations, prayer, chanting, playing theatre music, or vibrational music to uplift your spirit. I mean, whatever you do, it's got to be to uplift your spirit, but it's going to be very, very hard to get active, you know, creatively, even when it comes to our daily rituals, you know. This can also actually be a very self-sabotaging aspect where we can tend to neglect ourselves, you know, neglect our normal routines or, you know, but what I would say, you know, with this aspect, and because there's such a lack of energy with this, you know, intensity of the full moon and the lunar eclipse, with this aspect, I would say just rest. You know, don't feel guilty about taking time out. You know, take time out of the world's problems too, because there's too much going on right now for us to get our heads around. You know, things out in the global scene seem very dire at the moment, and many of us are struggling financially. But, you know, there's a great ability here for us to manifest, you know, a more positive outcome as long as we are being realistic and as long as we can get out of that negative thinking. But it may be hard to do that right now. So I would say, you know, if you're not in a good frame of mind, the worst thing you can do is try and manifest when you're not feeling it or you're not really thinking it. So I would just say, try and just blank your mind. Go into meditations where you can just empty your mind. Or, you know, there's so many meditations out there. You know, there's meditations that come in guidance form. And I've always recommended Steve Noble's meditations for that. But if you can't concentrate on guided meditations, then definitely look at theta. You know, look at theta. They do many different kind of octaves musically, you know, and they put titles to them. So the one you really need is to empty the mind. And with Mars conjunct Neptune, I mean, this can be very negative if we're pushing ourselves too hard or, you know, we're trying to hold on to the past. Excuse me, I've got to drink some water. I've got hay fever at the moment. Wow, I've never suffered with hay fever, but the last few years, I find every summer I'm just coughing. And especially since I've been working in the garden as well. And this is another thing I wanted to discuss here. You know, it's obvious that resources are very low at the moment. And financially, you know, there's a lot of pressure on us. You know, and I've said this before, we've got to start growing some of our own vegetables. You know, for those of us that are not doing it, I mean, it's going to be very hard at the moment to get motivated to do that. But we've really got to start, you know, focusing on that possibility. And if we haven't got the space to grow our own vegetables, you know, because growing our own vegetables will take, you know, pressure off our bills, off our shopping bill. So if we don't have the space to do that, collaborate with people that you know, collaborate with people that you trust. And if the people you know have only got a small space, you've only got a small space, then one person can grow a couple of things and another person can grow other things and you can share. Apologies. um, you know, so what I'm feeling here as well is apart from this negative thinking and this like atmosphere of depression right now, it's like, I mean, this is all about limited resources and the fear and the worry that surrounds that. That's why I'm saying there's always solutions, but we've got to be in that place of finding them. And because this T square is so strong, we can tend to feel isolated. We can tend to feel that we can't rely on others, that we can't trust others to, fulfill their promises or, but it's just the way we're feeling. This T square is all about how we're feeling right now. But like I said, there's a solution. And it's very hard to get into our spiritual practices when the aspects here are so materialistic. And, there's such a lack of faith. And like I said, because when we're trying to get things together, it's just not happening right now. That's why I'm just saying, all these solutions or things that I'm coming with, you may not be able to do them at the moment. But when we look at tomorrow's chart, maybe you can kind of like, think about what I'm saying here. So let's look at tomorrow's chart, actually. I mean, I just want to talk about actually Chiron conjunct Venus here. This is, again, what I'm saying. Emotionally, we may be very down, about our resources, about the lack of joy we're feeling in our lives right now. With the Black Moon, we live in Taurus, it's all about the shadow of scarcity. But, 7 is a spiritual number, so 2 and 5 breaks down to 7. This is telling us that the frequency to get out of this energy is by getting into our spiritual practices. But Taurus is not really, a spiritual energy. It's more materialistic. Capricorn is more materialistic. And, Libra is very logical and very, in negative aspect can be very easily influenced. And, Libra is all about the scales and conjunct the South Node. We're hanging too much in the past, whereas we need to be fighting for the future, especially with the North Node here in Aries. But, the sun's just entered into Taurus, so, happy solar return to all my Taurus, 13 star sign Tauruses out there. We got to let go of what we knew, of what, where we once were. I don't mean to say things can't be good again. But like I said, over the last few years, before we even come to this time, at first it was going to be chaos, especially for those of us that don't like change or find it hard to adapt to change. But, we're in times of change right now. And, going into next year, it's all going to be a little bit all over the place. We're going to see things we've never seen before. When Pluto moves into Capricorn next year, we're going to see like big corporations that we never thought would disperse, come down, It's going to be a whole different system. But like I say, it's got to be for the benefit of all and not just a few. And, we mustn't give up, because this energy, we can tend to feel like we just want to give up. So let me just come out of this chart and look at tomorrow's chart, because this lunar eclipse is going to be very, very deep. And, even for us spiritual, creative people, it's going to be pretty strong. So I was looking at tomorrow's chart. Now, the moon moves into Ophiuchus tomorrow. So the good thing about the moon in Ophiuchus is, Ophiuchus, really isn't about finances or materialism or man-made laws. Ophiuchus is about getting in touch with nature, about having faith, more about inner faith. Excuse me. I've got a cough again. No, I do apologise, but I just really am bummed up at the moment. The only thing, that's a problem, what I'm seeing here, I'm in number 6, the frequency of humanitarian values, but the focus is in opposition to the Black Moon Lilith in Taurus. Now 23 breaks down to 5. This is a shift in energy. So hopefully our focus is, really confronting the Black Moon's energy. I mean, the Black Moon Lilith, she is part of the focus system. But in Taurus, she's still in that materialistic vibe. This is the Black Moon that needs to be awakened to come into her spiritual knowledge so she can help humanity overcome their shadow. And they're both forming a T-square towards Juno in Aquarius, at 11 degrees. So this is like overcoming traditional values and trying to incorporate the new and the old, mastering that. I would say, again, with the South Node in Libra, again, it's about bringing the past into balance with the future or with our self-power. Knowing that we do need to come into some sort of independence to uplift our spirits. And it's, the North Node is at 23 degrees as well. So maybe the Black Moon is really shifting us into getting a little bit of fight. You know what I mean? Now, the goddess Vesta actually leaves Capricorn and she enters 0 degrees into Aquarius. So the smothering effect is beginning to fade now. But, if she was going into a fire sign, I would say, wow, very quickly our passions will reignite. But in an air sign, it's going to be really still difficult for her to get her spark back. But in an air sign, she gets into determination, but she may be a little bit all over the place for a while, but there is this sense of rebellion and not giving up. So that's why I want to look at the next day, because I just feel the chart will lightens up a little bit in one aspect, but we've still got a couple of T-squares that are very pressuring. So the moon moves away from the notes. Now I did write notes down here because, on the 20th, the moon actually comes into conjunction with Pluto. So, this is very, very intense, very, very emotionally dominating, but also, it's not looking good for the feminine energy, so I have to be careful what I say here. So there may be problems arising around this feminine energy. Pluto is very masculine, very dominating. And with the moon conjunct, it could be like, an emotional kind of like turnaround. Let's just call it that. Oh, sorry, I'm coughing all the way through this. Now, the good thing is Pallas is actually coming into conjunction, although she won't reach an exact conjunction for quite a while with Uranus. Maybe not until Uranus goes into retrograde, actually. But, the only thing is in Aries is it can kind of like rile us up. Do you know what I mean? So she will come into close contact with Uranus a bit later on in the month. And that can stir up some, because we're going to begin to see things clear as day. But it can stir up, you know, Aries is impulsive, it can be quick-tempered. So, Pallas actually supports the air signs. So, with Uranus in Aries, we can tend to not be in our higher consciousness, you know what I mean? We can be quick and impulsive to act suddenly out of character. So with the goddess Pallas is all about recognition and seeing, the clearer picture and fire and air. Wow, it can be, there can be this sparking of aggression. So we need to watch out for that. But I would say with Mars conjunct Neptune and Jupiter, this could be quite toxic, but it can also be explosive. So it can be explosive globally when it comes to maybe volcanic eruptions under the sea, or it can be explosive emotionally, especially here in the UK in the 7th house of relationships, with all this stuff going on with authority. I really would advise you to, if you haven't already, to go and read my Mercury retrograde article that I wrote, because I do feel after this solar eclipse there is going to be a lot of stuff coming out, but maybe, a little bit, maybe in a week or so, when we've got through the energies here. I just feel, as Pallas comes into conjunction with Uranus, I just feel there's some kind of exposure, or we see things a little bit more clearer that can, get our, sparking a little bit of anguish, let's just say that. So I just feel there's a lot of emotional erupting kind of occurring. I mean, Venus is moving, separating now from Chiron. So that would be a help in that moving on, basically, as well, from our worries around finances and our lack of joy. So overall, I mean, it's going to be an intense month, May. But like I said, there's solutions there, but we may not be able to get our head around things to actually get into that way of thinking. So all I can recommend is like positive daily affirmations, theta, anything to raise our spirit or our vibration, or do nothing. Just empty your minds and relax. If you want to sleep. There is a serious lack of energy going on here, a lack of motivation, a lack of spiritual strength. So just rest. For those of you that really just can't get it together. And for those of us that are kind of like managing to keep it together, maybe just like pull it out to the collective if you can, or start collaborating with people of a like mind about getting produce on the go. Do you know what I mean? I know it's June now. This is the last month to start planting certain vegetables, but we can start planting winter vegetables in a little while, or even now. you know, stuff like cabbages and spinach can be grown later on, or even carrots. Do you know what I mean? So I just feel it's so important that we take some of the pressure off us, you know, financially and economically, because I don't see things getting any better at the moment. So, Kindred, I'm going to leave it there. I'm sorry I've been coughing and spluttering all the way through this, but, you know, even I am kind of finding it hard to get it together. I mean, there's so much I wanted to say yesterday about this, but unfortunately I had a house full of people and I couldn't record. But yeah, and today I'm just full of allergy. So I've been in the garden actually, and you know, we've been cutting hedges and grass. So yeah, my hay fever's really kicked in. But yeah, I'll also, you know, in the description box below, if you're watching this on YouTube, and I will be posting this socially as well, I've putting out a questionnaire about learning, who wants to learn the True Lifetime Sky Astrology. I need to gauge how many of you there are and what level of astrology you have in your understanding. So there will be a link to a form for you to fill in the description box on YouTube, or, you know, I will be putting it on my website and it will be out there socially as well. And yeah, also there will be, I'm doing this 6-month transit report for the rest of the year for $20 if you're interested. Just so you know what energies are coming up for you. So transits are a personal horoscope to you. And I just think that might be a good thing to have if you haven't got one already, just to know what energies are coming in for you for the rest of the year. So, you know, I think when we know what energies are affecting us, then it helps us to like understand and to, you know, find solutions. Sometimes it's good to understand why we feel the way we feel, or why we're going through what we're going through. And it does help us to kind of work around it. So, as always, I'm sending you peace and much love.